Hey everyone, so here's a quick video on thoughts on Bitcoin at $60,500. So Bitcoin hit an all-time high of just under $74,000 on March 14. So now that it is August 2nd, we are basically 4.5 months since the last all-time high. That early peak was largely a function of the Bitcoin ETFs. Which can continue to go strong, although obviously they go up and down like everything else does. And the recent sort of price suppression has been due to a variety of things, including the German government dumping $3 billion of Bitcoin, the amount which that was from back in 2013, 11 years ago. Mt. Gox, the hack back from 2014, which is now 10 years old, that $9 billion being returned to the people who were hacked at the time 10 years ago. And then the U.S. government moving $2 billion, which has triggered people speculating that the government of the United States might sell that Bitcoin. And on top of that, the perception in the market that a Donald Trump presidency would be better for Bitcoin and cryptocurrency in general than Kamala Harris or anyone else. And since Trump's chances of winning are not as strong as they were a couple weeks ago, that is also dragging on the marketplace. And I'm just going off betting markets. So the betting markets had Donald Trump beating Kamala Harris by about a 2-to-1 margin a couple weeks ago after the assassination attempt. And now it's more evened out to about 50-50 chances if you look at the major betting markets where people are betting who's going to win the presidency, which those are, pretty good predictors because people are betting actual real money based on the likely outcome of given events. At the same time, the ETFs are going strong. They're spreading around the world. Countries are talking about using Bitcoin to settle international trade and fund flows between countries. Morgan Stanley, I believe it's Morgan Stanley, just gave the green light for their advisors to market the Bitcoin ETFs. BlackRock and Fidelity were the two they approved. That will go live on Wednesday of this week. So literally 4 days away. Wednesday of this coming week, 15,000 analysts will have the green light to proactively solicit investment in the Bitcoin ETFs to their customer base, and those advisors represent about $7 trillion. I think it's $7.5 trillion of assets for Morgan Stanley customers. The only restriction on that, which is a meaningful restriction, is they have to only solicit investment from clients of Morgan Stanley that have a net worth of at least $1.5 million and have a high risk appetite. But most of the high net worth, people in their client base are going to meet that criteria. So as a result of that, at times like this, when the price of Bitcoin is lower than it's historically been, it is a fantastic time to accumulate. And unless you are 100% allocated to Bitcoin with no other way of making money or buying more Bitcoin, obviously when the price is down, it results in there being a fantastic buying opportunity to buy some more Bitcoin. The day will come, I posted earlier today that 14 years ago today, you could buy Bitcoin for 5 cents. And I got that on Twitter/X. And you can obviously, follow my tweets on there or posts if you want to, anything I pull from that to post on Facebook. I also like and repost on Twitter. So feel free to follow me there. But anyway, 14 years ago, you could buy Bitcoin for 5 cents. So come a long way. And 4 years ago, back in 2020, about this time, a few days ago, actually, was the last time you could buy Bitcoin for less than $10,000 a coin ever. And obviously, since it's extraordinarily unlikely that under any circumstances, the price would ever return anywhere close to that, that was just the last chance to buy it below $10,000 per coin. So what does that mean for where we are now? Well, one, it means that at some point we will pass $70,000 and never look back. And probably 4 years from now, when Bitcoin's up at 200,000 or 300,000 a coin or whatever the price ends up being, somebody's going to be talking about the fact that, hey, up here at 200,000 or 300 or 400,000 a coin, and they will be talking about the fact that 4 years ago, which is this year, which is now, was the last time you could still buy Bitcoin for less than $70,000 per coin. And I don't know if that day is today or tomorrow or a week from now or a month from now, but At some point in the near future, you will have the last opportunity to accumulate Bitcoin below $70,000 per coin. And right now, today, you can get it below $61,000 per coin. Great buying opportunity. When you are buying Bitcoin, you are exchanging something that is not scarce, the US dollar, for something that is scarce. And generally throughout history, anytime you had the opportunity to trade something that was less scarce for something that was more scarce, whether that was trading seashells for gold, or whether it's trading gold for Bitcoin, or just anytime, or US dollars for gold, or whatever. Anytime you're trading something that is less scarce for something that is more scarce, meaning there's less of it, trading something where there's more of for something there's less of, that tends to be a good trade, especially if that trade is for something that has very strong monetary properties. So anytime the price of Bitcoin is doing what it's doing today, the question I ask myself is, okay, let's look at the fundamentals. Is Bitcoin still as scarce as it's ever been? Yes, more so by the day. Is it still divisible? And is it durable? And is it secure? And is it auditable? And is it censorship resistant? And is it, are all the amazing features of Bitcoin as amazing as they've ever been? And the answer is yes, 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 and yes. So Bitcoin is even more so than ever this incredible technology that can withstand anything, that by inevitability will become the future monetary system of the world, because the US dollar just is not going to adequately serve that purpose when they start printing vast quantities of it. And thinking about how not scarce the US dollar is, prior to, actually earlier this week, the prediction markets, which are kind of like the betting markets I was talking about with the presidential election, the prediction markets had a 11% chance of a rate of I think what it was like a 25%, or a quarter of a percentage point rate cut by the Federal Reserve, which is effectively results in money printing, coming in September. And within a couple of days, as the stock market wobbled and the value of Nvidia dropped from 3 trillion to 2 trillion, and the stock market had its worst day since 2020 and all that sort of stuff, when all of that happened earlier this week, the prediction markets suddenly showed a high likelihood of a 0.5 percentage point interest rate cut by the Federal Reserve in September, and another one before the end of the year. So, the money we use is not working. We don't know if the interest rates are going to stay the same, if they're going to drop by a quarter of a percentage point, if they're going to drop by quadruple that, a full percentage point, when that's going to happen, how that's going to happen. Like, it's completely ridiculous to run an economy when we don't know what the value is of the measuring stick. It would be the equivalent of waking up every day and all the carpenters and all the architects checked online to see how long an inch was. Is there 6 inches in a foot, or is there 8 inches, or 11 inches, 13 inches? How long is a foot today? And money should not be like that. Money should be an absolute rule of measure of wealth and measure of value, so that you can transact knowing that that measure is not going to arbitrarily change. Well, we live in a world where virtually everything is controlled by supply and demand, except the money. The money is the one thing that is just manipulated by central governments and central banks, which is absolutely insane. There is nothing else that is as valuable as money that we would ever entrust for its measure to be just arbitrarily manipulated at the whim of a small group of individuals who, historically have been wrong every time. And then they'll be wrong this time too. And then after they're wrong, they'll promise that they've learned their lesson and they won't make the same mistakes the next time. And then, 10 or 15 years will pass and we'll have a massive recession. And they will say the same thing again, which is, we've learned our lesson this time. We would never make the same mistake twice. And they've been telling us this since the Federal Reserve was created in 1913, that, they've now figured out how to not ever have recessions again. And then we have massive recessions as a result of cheap credit, which results in inflation, which results in them jacking up interest rates, which results in everything, coming unglued. And that boom bust cycle is 100% a function of the Federal Reserve. Otherwise, we'd have minor ups and downs, but it'd be nothing like what we're experiencing now. So we live in this bizarre alternate reality where a small number of people get to control the money supply and manipulate it however they see fit. And it's literally impossible, even if those people were perfect. They're not. There's no possible way to centrally control a money supply and get it right. Even if I were in charge of the money supply. There's no way I would get the interest rate right because there's no way to predict what the price of anything, whether it's gold, whether it's oil, whether it's pencils, whether it's, suitcases, couches. There's no way to centrally plan the price of anything, especially the interest rates, because the interest rates should reflect the supply and demand of people willing to lend their money. And right now, interest rates just reflect whatever the Federal Reserve just makes them up to be. And they obviously have no capability to do that. It's essentially money. We're treating money like the communist government in the USSR treated the economy. It's literally no different. Now, they did it for everything from TVs to shoes to cars to everything. And we're still doing it for money, where central planners are controlling the value of the money, manipulating the value of money. And that is just not going to work. Like, it's not working. The value of the dollar has lost somewhere in the ballpark of between 96 and 98% of its value since the creation of the Federal Reserve. You used to be able to buy, a Big Mac for 11 cents or 45 cents or some, less than half a dollar. And now it's like $8. And anyway, everything is just completely out of control. And again, stuff that used to cost $1 back in 1913 now costs, a ton more. So anyway, so that's the world we live in. So the question I ask myself when Bitcoin's doing what it's doing is, are any of the fundamentals being undermined or not there? The answer is no. Bitcoin's as strong as it's ever been as the perfect monetary system for the future. And then the second question I ask myself is any of the news headlines bad news for Bitcoin long term? And the answer is no. They're all news headlines that affect the short term, like a presidential election, or who's dumping Bitcoin, whether it's the German government or the old Mt. Gox hack or even the U.S. government. You can't dump the same Bitcoin twice. So once you sell it, you don't have it, which means, there's no way you can suppress the market twice. By nature, by definition, that's short term. And then I look at the long term and I say, Bitcoin is more available to more people around the world than it ever has been. And the monetary elements are better than they've ever been. The trust in Bitcoin and durability of Bitcoin is higher than it's ever been. The security of Bitcoin, which is measured by the hash rate, which is how much computational power is being used to secure and audit the network, hit a new record this week. So the Bitcoin network is more secure and more audited than it's ever been in history. And so the price reflects the fact that at some point in the future, people will come to me and they will say, wow, I really, really, really wish I had bought way more Bitcoin. And what I will think but not say is, well, you had 4.5 months to do it. It's not like, there was this tiny little blip and you had to time it perfectly on a certain day. You and I, all of us have had 4 months to buy Bitcoin less than $70,000 a coin. 4 solid months. Just going to have to buy it at a higher price. Now, in my case, obviously, I bought Bitcoin in 2017 and 2018, and I bought more in, 2020 or 2021 and 2022, 2023, 2024. So obviously, it's natural to continue to accumulate Bitcoin and to put a higher percent and a higher percent of your net worth in Bitcoin over time. But as far as just in this sort of time period, for anybody who's wanted to accumulate more, you've had a nice somewhere. It's going to do the same thing, right? It'll ramp up to 120, 130,000 a coin. Then it'll bounce around in that same range for a few months at a time. And, you'll probably never get a chance to buy again at these prices once it sort of leaves this zone and stays out of this zone for a few weeks. It's likely never coming back. So anyway, act accordingly. But as always, this is not financial, legal, or tax advice. This is just my own personal opinion from buying my first Prospera stock and other private companies I've invested in. And then also it does not count some financial resources that Rachel manages that are sort of an emergency fund in case my extremely high risk tolerance does not pan out as planned. So I manage the majority of everything, and of that majority or significant majority of everything, 96% of all of the assets that I have any say whatsoever where they go, other than some of the private companies that I've invested in, like Prospera. And anyway, if you're listening to this and you want to invest in Prospera as well, and you are an accredited investor in the United States, let me know. We have, we're always interested in investors, and usually the timeline before various rounds close is super tight. So anyway, if you're interested, let me know. But otherwise, enjoy your Bitcoin journey. Always here to help. Let me know if I can do anything for you. Thanks.